And we are live. Here's a track. It's original music called Lost Luggage. All right, let's get this thing started. The early edition. Welcome to it, folks. It is Sunday morning, and that star is pretty blank. Large coronal hole swinging into the Earth-facing region as we look at the last 7 hours of solar activity. Let's look at 211 angstroms also. Pretty much the entire Earth-facing portion of the sun there is just a giant coronal hole. And we see some shrinkage at the North Pole coronal hole again. That is a good sign, an indication that the North Pole field is gaining strength. And that's a good thing, folks. As we don't want to see the solar minimum to minimum. We're already having crop losses all around the world. China just got hit with another, Eastern China that is, got hit with another severe hailstorm, injuring 20 people. And let's give you one more view here before we move on to a lot of stuff. A little bit of filamentary activity going on the eastern limb there. Weak sun, folks. If you haven't bought a bike yet, buy a bike. Add a bicycle to your doomsday prepping process and head to theveloshop.net. Looks like we raised another 10 bucks yesterday. So whoever donated, thank you if you're watching the video. Trying to raise 5,500 bucks by May 1st, and we're running out of time real quick. If you want to sponsor the entire team, email me at smAsho@gmail.com. If you want to sponsor me directly, do it here or go to the PayPal link, which we will provide in a moment. Also support us on Patreon, please. We've got 3 patrons. Will you be our 4th? Please do. We've also begun the long, arduous process of starting a nonprofit organization. So head to smAsho.org to see our links. The mission is to assess, study, and report on the ongoing formation of a unified theory of physics, to raise the awareness of the general public of the relationship between space weather and Earth effects, to connect and to consult with media organizations to multiply our reach, to demonstrate cutting-edge proof-of-concept solutions to problems, to publish scientific papers in a multidisciplinary manner, to assist mankind by advancing the study of predictive phenomenon in order to optimize value, reduce risk and liability, save lives and resources, and adapt no matter what the adversity is, and to not be ossified in our beliefs, and to treat those who are with love, respect, and inclusion to the scientific discussion. Because we're not trying to alienate folks that think we're telling lies out here, folks. We're trying to draw them into the discussion because their opinions are valid too, even if they're stupid. There's the PayPal link, paypal.me/smashomash. So thanks everybody who's been donating. We really appreciate it. It makes a huge difference. And let's go to the real-time solar wind. Phi angle is at 288. Here's a coronal hole connection, magnetically speaking. Here's another coronal hole connection, magnetically speaking. So we are awaiting that to happen again, and it would be no surprise if it happened at any point. We see a bit of an uptick here in the solar wind density. 8.37 protons per cubic centimeter. 357 kilometers per second is the solar wind speed. Looks like the beginning of a solar wind coronal hole wind stream hitting, folks. Let's look at more data, such as the Gong 2. Here's the ecliptic plane field plot. Try to say that 3 times real fast. Ecliptic plane field plot, ecliptic plane field plot. I can almost do it. We're going to get into some magnetic turbulence here as this region right in here is well, there's some plasma, and there was a coronal mass ejection. So stay tuned. We're going to show you. We're going to tell you where it's going. This track is called Unified Theory 3, and it is also available at soundclick.com/goldencatproductions, my record label. Check out the Halo Aurora, taken in Fairbanks, Alaska. Now, this kind of aurora is the kind that you see when the Birkeland current is pointed right at your head. Halo Aurora. Pretty good shot there. Got some purple and some green. I wanted to note thermosphere index. And they need to upgrade. Hey, spaceweather.com. Update your 10.7 centimeter radial flux. It is not at 68. It is at 67. And that is, sun is doing the limbo, folks. 67 is a very, very low level of solar activity. Let's go to spaceweathernews.com and look at the X-ray flux, which is utterly flatlined. We're expecting some perturbations here in the magnetometer over the next day or two. So that's something to watch if you're into crunching data constantly, and I know some of our viewers are. KP is at 1. There's the electron flux, and we see this characteristic dip in the electron flux around the onset of the arrival of a coronal hole wind stream. So it looks like that's what's happening now, folks. And the F2 layer is looking very discharged. So we're expecting the solar wind velocity to rise throughout the day. And the solar wind density to drop, the standard fare for a coronal hole wind stream. So again, F2 layer is looking discharged. A little bit anomalous there. So that's something to keep an eye on too throughout the day today. And I don't like the way this page scrolls by itself, but I think if you let it alone, it'll be okay. All right, there we go. There's the aurora forecast. And there's the aurora australis, which looks pretty charged up. And let's move on to more stuff. Look at the Enlil spiral here. And it looks like the increase in plasma density has not been predicted. The green lines there, that's the Earth, obviously. So there's that forecast. I would not be surprised if this changed as we see an increase in the velocity, in the density right now. And let's just move on here because these are models, and never get your models confused with your data, folks. Let's look at the total electron content here, which I forgot to bring up. So let's bring it up. It's like very low levels of electron flux, and we saw some anomalous data a couple days ago on this. So I'm not sure what's going on here. Let's just let this play through. All right, that looks legit. So yeah, very low electron flux levels. And that's what happens when you spray protons into the Van Allen belt. Protons are electron thieves. Practically nothing wants an electron more than a hydrogen nucleus. Look at the magnetosphere movies here. We're going to let it run through for pressure, density, and velocity. We like to see when the data corroborates each other. So there's the velocity. We'll let that play through. By the way, this track is called Blacksmith. And since the sun is the ultimate blacksmith, at least in terms of our solar system, that's part of the reason we study it. It's true. It's true. The fusion is happening on the surface, not in the core. Here's the density. And when we say density, we mean magnetohydrodynamic density. Nothing too extreme going on there. Keep in mind on this particular magnetosphere movie, the dark blue is high density and the white is low density. Here's the pressure. And we see Earth back into a charging state once again with a greater charge in the magnetotail than on the bow shock. So, as we expect a higher solar wind velocity to kick up throughout the day today and the density to drop, that should create a perturbation in this. If you want to keep watching, there will be a link in the description. Next, we'll look at ground perturbations. As we've had some serious perturbations in some various places. In fact, there's magmatic activity going on underneath Kilauea. Yeah, that's right. Magmatic activity going on underneath Kilauea with some 4+ magnitude quakes. Perhaps it's ready to start erupting again. There also was an earthquake underneath Mauna Loa. We'll cover it, so stay tuned. There's the polar perturbations. Here it is on the globe perspective. And we thank keyboard shortcuts for making our videos better. Monitoring the polar excursion as best we can. If anybody would like to build a magnetometer and send it to us, we would cover that every day. Here's a location of the things in your solar system. And I just want to note that stereo A is right here, and stereo B is right about there. For you new viewers who are not aware, stereo A and B are used to monitor the far side of the sun and to help predict coronal mass ejections. And again, we saw one just a few hours ago, actually. Let's advance this here so you can see what will be happening in 1 week. Mercury is just overtaking Venus. Earth is creeping up on Jupiter and Saturn. And let's move on to more stuff. Here's a space weather beacon. This is the coronagraph located at stereo A, which is why we just told you where it is. And you're going to see a coronal mass ejection headed right out the interplanetary magnetic field. right there, right at the end of the movie. Small coronal mass ejection. Part of it is on the interplanetary magnetic field line, which is located close to the solar equator, somewhere around this area. So we're going to look at some more data to figure out how Earth-facing it is. It is a bit Earth-facing. So here's the SOHO coronagraph, and you're going to see the coronal mass ejection is going to miss us to the west. So we'll just let that play through. And right there you see the coronal mass ejection. It looked nothing like a halo, which means it will miss. Also, we'll let that play through again. You can see a comet diving into the sun. I think it was the 24th. So look in the lower left. There's the coronal mass ejection, which was on the 27th, yesterday, late in the day. And there goes that comet on the 24th. Moving on to some more stuff, I recommend you check out inthesky.org. Links in the description. And yeah, here's what's going on in the ecliptic right now from where I'm located, which is in eastern Pennsylvania, the Lehigh Valley. So the moon's just risen. And we also see Jupiter and Saturn up there. And headed to the other side, if you look in the northeast sky, you'll see the most important constellation in the sky, Cygnus. Where were you when Cygnus rose? Let's look at cosmic rays just as a matter of data inclusion. Here's Apatity, and there's Barentsburg. Here's Athens. If we're not spending enough time on the pages, folks, just pause the video. Saw a big spike. Just coming off a big spike at Athens, folks. Mexico City. Actually, very low levels there. So some disparities. Let's check Moscow. We saw a spike on the 21st, but since then, back to nominal levels at Moscow. Here's Oulu and Antarctica B and C. Excuse me. There's Oulu, Finland. There's DOMC Antarctica. And there's DOMB Antarctica. Cosmic Ray Links site seen here is also in the description of this video. Check out Zooniverse.org and classify some galaxies. Largest citizen science project in the world, Zooniverse.org. Get yourself published in an astronomy paper by classifying galaxies like this one. Also, join us on Facebook. Facebook.com/smAsho. And I can't scroll because Facebook software is horrendous. Also on Twitter. And while we don't tweet, smAsho staff does post our videos. So check that out also. It makes it a little easier to share with your friends if we're on the other platforms. Also check us out on Instagram. A little more personal, a little behind the scenes stuff, and stuff that has nothing to do with space weather. Also check us out on minds.com/smAshomash. Check us out on SoundCloud. Links in the description for that also. Some more original music there, as well as the site that is currently playing. Let's bring up the chat here. And look at earthquakes. Good morning, smAsho staff. Fine job you're doing over there, smAsho staff. A fine job. Next, we're going to earthquakes, and there's some unsettling stuff, no pun intended. Hawaii, heads up. We got a 4.2 in the Greenland Sea, very far north. How about a 4.9 at the Philippines, 4.8 at Easter Island. Once again, another Easter Island rocking 2 days in a row. 4.9 in the Philippines. So Philippines are seeing an uptick. How about a 5.0 in Indonesia? Was there a tsunami? Well, let's go find out. I'm sure there wasn't, but we'll look anyway, as we like to crunch the data. Oh, man. Hawaii. Wake up, Hawaii. I know it's late, Hawaii. We also see a 4.9 in Indonesia, 4.3 in the West Chile rise, right on the plate boundary there. I believe that's the Antarctican plate. 4.4 at Greece, 4.4 at Japan, 5.4 at Japan, also at depth. So that's a harbinger of a larger quake at the surface, folks. 5.0 at New Zealand. Let us know if you felt that, viewers. Leave us a comment. 4.5 in the Kuriil Islands. And as I've heard, the algorithms on YouTube have recently changed. Please leave a like, as they are apparently more important than ever for some unknown reason. 5.1 in China, 4.0 in Chile, 4.3 in Greece, 4.2 in Russia, 5.1 in Tonga, 4.5 in Russia, 4.6 in Russia, 4.5 in Russia, 4.0 in Anchorage. Shout out Anchorage. Leave a comment. 4.1 in China. And let's zoom in on this one. Hawaii. Check it out, right by Kilauea. In fact, let's go to quakes.globalincidentmap.com, because USGS's site is it's okay. It kind of works. I'm not a fan. You see, folks, the government isn't very good at doing things, and that's why I'm not a big fan. In fact, I'm a massive critic. Fortunately, the U.S. doesn't behead people yet like Saudi Arabia for criticizing the government. And where the hell is the... All right, this is good enough. All right, so I'm going to zoom in on Hawaii a little bit here. So there's a scenario. We saw a small quake at a 1.92 magnitude 8 hours ago near Mauna Loa. And there must be some jostling of magma going on here, as we see a 4.22 near Volcano, right in the Volcanoes National Park. A 1.69. I can't hover it. There we go. 41 minutes ago, there was a 1.81. 4 hours ago, near Pahala, 4.0. So some magma moving around there. Kilauea may be getting ready to start erupting again, folks. Let's go back to USGS here to get moving with the update before we're old and gray. There's that 4.2 in Hawaii. There's a 4.9 in the Philippines, 4.3 in East Timor, 4.7 in the Philippines, 4.8 in the Philippines. So not really an uptick. The magnitude 7 earthquake drought continues, folks. So I guess we'll have to draw in the warning areas once again. Oh, this map. This map, it makes you want to pull your hair out. If you're in these areas, or even nearby those areas, as it's pretty hard to draw, have an earthquake plan, be an asset and not a liability in the event of a disaster, have a bug out bag, know what buildings are going to fall down, because that coronal hole is going to magnetically connect to the planet again, so be ready for it. Look at windy.com for a minute here to check out the low pressure systems. We see a strong double low there south of the Aleutian Islands. Strong low in southern Montana, as well as in Ohio. And there's the rest of the pressure maps. Since this is the area of highest activity, let's let this play through to see if there are any predicted anomalous lows. Heads up India. That low right there, it's moving the wrong direction, Anyway, let's let that continue to play here. All right, let's move on to volcanoes and do a rundown. VolcanoDiscovery.com. Volcanoes today. Shiva Luch. Shiva Luch is back on the list with a 15,000 foot ash plume. Tacono, 5,000 foot ash plume. Fuego back on the list, 15,000 foot plume there. Revenador, 15,000 foot plume there. Sabancaya, isolated emission. I wouldn't play Twister on top of Sabancaya. Check out the US Doppler radar. Got an interesting straight line of storms there going across North and South Dakota. Pretty odd. So let's look at it on the water vapor. Actually, first here's lightningmaps.org. That is generating some lightning there in North and South Dakota, it looks like. Oklahoma and Texas are getting a little more lightning once again. Here's a water vapor map. Which we will show you at maximum resolution. There's that situation. Quite a bit of turbulence there in the northeast. And let's zoom in on this convergence zone near South Dakota. Looks a little odd up there. Let's have a closer look. Anyway, there's that convergence zone. We see your characteristic Hall current lines down here. It looks like an upper level low there sweeping across. Anyway, one more zoom in here on the East Coast, the Mid-Atlantic area. As I want to know what's going on above my head too, folks. What's going on your galaxy? Do we have anybody from M31, the Andromeda Galaxy, watching the video? If so, please leave a comment. Here's an article on Science Alert. Astronomers catch a puny star puking up a flare of powerful radiation. Yes. Tiny little brown dwarf with an estimated radius only 1/10 of our sun. Doesn't even rank as a substellar brown dwarf. Yet it produced a flare where its brightness changed 10,000-fold. We'll leave links to the article. In fact, they're already there. What's the moral of the story, folks? The moral of the story, folks, is that every star is a variable star. every star is a variable star. There's no such thing as a stable star, folks. And I would highly recommend you watch Sky Scholar videos. Let me pause the music here and give you a quote from Robitaille about the classification of stellar bodies.
Of the main sequence, one finds the giants and supergiants, including such famous stars as Betelgeuse and Rigel.
So watch the video about the HR diagram explained. If you don't understand stellar classifications, links are already in the description. Global warming update. The planet's burning up, which is why there's delayed planting all across the US. Canada's almost entirely snow-covered, and Greenland has gone off the scale with over 9 feet of snow. We verified this. It's over 9 feet of snow. It's more like 15 feet of snow, but this graph only goes to 9 feet. So the planet's burning up, folks. Oh my gosh, it's burning up. It's burning up. Stop producing CO2 and start paying your taxes and try to elect some socialists to institute ridiculous policies that will reduce your CO2 emissions so we stop burning the planet up, as the planet is just ready to just vaporize and just turn into a ball of gaseous plasma because it's so hot here that it's cold. Check out electroverse.net. There's some interesting articles here. Let's start back in time. So on the 25th, there's Nevado del Ruiz exploding. Huge delays for Northwest planting season. We've had the longest winter ever. See, it's so hot there that it's cold. As we head into May, much of North America braces for record-breaking cold and snow. Torrential rains and monster hail destroy 55,000 acres of crops across Telangana, India. That looks bad. Winter's coming early, Australia. Antarctic blast to engulf the country. Boy, it's really hot there, isn't it? And just yesterday, Nevado del Ruiz fires hash 27,000 feet and Revenador to 20,000 feet. Electroverse.net, providing some actual data as opposed to nonsensical BS data. Here's Tropical Tidbits. Let's advance this so we can see how hot it's going to be due to carbon dioxide, which, by the way, is not a greenhouse gas and never was. Well, the north central U.S. and the central U.S. are going to continue to get temperatures 20 degrees Celsius below normal. Remember the late spring last year? You're experiencing a late spring this year too. It's not because the planet's hot. QAnon warns a collapse has begun. Scary video about the 2019 stock market crash. Well, what are we talking about? We're talking about emerging markets unable to pay their debts. And since inflation is what's running the U.S. stock market and causing companies to be massively inflated in their stock price, their share price, this stuff is like a series of dominoes, folks. So emerging market economies went on an unprecedented debt binge over the past decade. That's because of cheap money being available at a nearly zero prime lending rate, 0% prime lending rate. A high percentage of those debts were denominated in US dollars. So directly, you can blame the Federal Reserve, folks. You can blame the Federal Reserve. Anyway, as emerging market currencies collapse, it's going to become nearly impossible to service any debts denominated in US dollars. And that could ultimately mean enormous losses for international lenders. If you don't know what this means, I can't help you because we can only cover so much stuff. Let's look at markets to see if all the crop losses around the world and late plantings and floods destroying grain stores are priced into the market. So let's look at the Dow. You see any dips in the Dow in the last month? Here's the 1-year chart, and well, you certainly don't. So food prices are going to rise, folks. It's just a fact. As mankind relies on grains, let's look at the S&P 500. Absolutely not priced in, because people are ostriching. Heads are in the sand, folks. Heads are in the sand. Now, oil prices have dropped thanks to President Trump contacting Saudi Arabia and asking them to increase supplies. That's a direct manipulation of the market. We prefer lower oil prices than higher ones, although keep in mind, if oil prices get too low, Russia loses its mind. Here's gold, which is a way to protect against inflation and a crashing stock market, which you can expect to see this year. Hopefully it won't crash too much, because if it does, you may welcome Bernie Sanders as U.S. president. And if that's not a horrifying notion, I don't know what is. Here's silver. I would note that this channel called the low point of silver way back here at 14 bucks an ounce. So another hedge against inflation. Really, any commodity is a hedge against inflation, because when the market crashes, you need real stuff. Beans, bullets, and Band-Aids. Not Google stock, or Apple stock, or Twitter stock, or Facebook stock. All of those companies write horrific software, folks. Horrific software. Let's look at corn. We'll look at a 1-year chart of corn. Do you think losing 40% of U.S. grain stores are priced into this market, folks? I mean, come on. It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. How about wheat? You'll see this is also not priced into the market with all those loss of food stores and all those crop losses around the whole world. Might be a good time to invest in wheat. Don't consider this investment advice, as I am no longer licensed to do that. I did spend several years in the financial services industries, starting out as a day trader and then becoming an insurance agent who's licensed in 49 states. But I got out of that because it's a crooked mess. There's your wheat prices. And they didn't do anything like rise as a result of the U.S. losing 40% of its grain stores due to flooding, due to record-breaking snowfall in the United States and the entire Northern Hemisphere in the 2018 to 2019 winter. All right, I guess I'll stop bloviating about that and say, hey, why don't you check out solon.info and check it out. Are we going to come out of this minimum quickly, or are we going to be stuck in this minimum for an extended period of time like we were in August? Let's look at more views of the sun. The last 7 hours and 45 minutes in 94 angstroms. The significance of 94 angstroms for you new viewers out there is the fact that 94 angstroms takes 5 times as many photos as the other cameras. So this gives you a little bit higher temporal resolution, I'll say. That's about it, folks. Let's bring out the chat. Core Grog Gogo, Grogo, welcome. And Gregory Burton. Fusion is coming commercial by 2023. Okay. As long as I can get a fusion generator at home. Carbon dioxide is plant food. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We are out of here because it's about that time. So thanks for watching. Please donate, subscribe, press like, share on your social media. We can't get to 1,400 subscribers for some reason. So, that's what we call a shadow ban, folks. And remember, when you're staring at the sun, don't drink. And if you drink, stare at the sun anyway. Just don't drive. And since it'll never be now again, may the solar wind be at your back and the atherosclerosis absent from your veins.